The so-called Judiciary Committee of the U.S. Senate is voting out of committee Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Amy Coney Bryant? Or is it Amy Coney Barron? Or whatever her name is. I frankly forget. And let me tell you why I forget. Because it's not that important to me. That's the bottom line. I've seen what the Supreme Court does. It is very partisan, doesn't matter which justice you're talking about. They vote basically in line with the president that put them on the bench. And that's the problem today, is that we don't have a judiciary, particularly a federal judiciary, that has any great sense of integrity. The American people, frankly, have lost any faith in the federal judiciary in particular, and also the state judiciary, I might add, but it's not as bad because at least they're elected accountable to the people and they can be removed at the ballot box. But the Supreme Court is no different than the lower courts. The judges get there by and large on the basis of political campaign contributions. As just one example, as I've said before, there's actually a judge out of Rhode Island, a friend of Sheldon Whitehouse. I call him Sheldon Outhouse, that mafia-connected senator up there in Rhode Island. Rhode Island is one of the most corrupt states in the United States. It's mafia-controlled. Their governor or mayor years ago actually was picked up by the CIA when he was drunk, accidentally throwing away a bribe that he had in the trash. I mean, that's what goes on up there. But that notwithstanding is the fact that these judges are not the best and the brightest. Now, Amy may be very well qualified, but the Supreme Court makes a lot of decisions which don't follow the Constitution, much more the rule of law or the rule of God. And it's my opinion that Americans have no duty to follow those decisions, as long as you act in an ethical and honest way and don't hurt anybody else and respect other people. But I certainly have lost my respect for the federal judiciary. And that's what my book is about. And that's what Jefferson said was going to happen. And my book is dedicated, It Takes a Revolution, to Thomas Jefferson, because he said that because federal judges would be unelected, he opposed this in the U.S. Constitution. He opposed Article 3, that they will become despots and they will take over and dominate the other two branches of government, and there will be no checks and balances. Of course, we have no other two branches of government today anyway. That's a fact. They're corrupt. The deep state and the executive branch is more powerful than the president of the United States. Congress is a bunch of court jesters, clowns, and criminals. And the federal judiciary is out for themselves and for the people that put them in power, those special interest groups that bribe their way into positions, not the American people. And that's why we are in a revolution already. And that's going to get worse, regardless of who wins the election in a week and a half, the presidential election and the congressional elections. People are going to be in the streets. It's going to be anarchy. And we need to step up to the plate, we Americans, and restore the vision of our founding fathers, the concept of our founding fathers, what we created in Philadelphia on July 4th, 1776, and which thus far has lasted 244 years. But we've come to the brink. We have become as corrupt as ancient Rome in 1/10 the time of the Roman Empire. And what we see now are a bunch of hacks, clowns, and criminals in Washington, D.C. on both sides of the aisle. Let me repeat that. Both sides of the aisle. Sure, the Democrats are worse. Sure, they become the party of the devil. They want to turn this country into a socialist communist gulag. We cannot let them. And the Republicans, the cowardly establishment Republicans, sit there and just watch. And that's why we, the American people, must rise up. We must do it for ourselves. So I want you to go out and buy my book, It Takes a Revolution. It's coming out in 5 days. Pre-order it. You'll get it almost immediately at Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. It's different than any other book out there. And I'm not just saying this because I want to sell books, because I doubt that I'll make much of anything on this. But the American people need to be educated. They need to know what we're up against. I've been in the bowels of so-called government in the swamp for over 40 years. You know, may Rush Limbaugh live a very long time. I wish him the best. I wish him Godspeed. But even Rush does not know what goes on in the trenches of Washington, D.C. He's been in a radio studio for his whole life. Hannity, the same thing. The rest of them. I've been there. I know what goes on. I know how corrupt it is. I know how much more corrupt it is today than it was when I founded Judicial Watch in 1994. It's 1,000 times worse. And we're on the brink of a socialist communist takeover of our government. We cannot allow that. And that's why we need to start to use tools like citizens' grand juries, which I've talked about in other podcasts. We need to indict, and I did, Comey, just last fall. We're going to try him. We need to indict. I'm talking about Mueller. We need to indict Comey. We need to indict the McCabe's. We need to indict the Bruce Orrs, the Clappers, the Brennans, the Bidens, the Clintons, and of course, the Obamas. And we need to indict Republicans as well who are dishonest. Each side of the aisle needs to be held accountable. We need to indict judges who don't follow their oath of office. They need to be held accountable. There's a chapter in my book, I say this figuratively, that the first to be taken to the guillotines in the new revolution are the federal judges. And I go through it on both sides of the aisle, both Obama and Clinton judges and Trump judges. Trump doesn't know who he appointed. Their names were put in front of him by Republican special interests and lobbyists that wanted their guy on the bench. They wanted their yes man or yes woman on the bench. That's what we've got. Now, this is the bottom line here, ladies and gentlemen. Get up off the couch. Turn off cable news. Get to work. Join Freedom Watch at freedomwatchusa.org. Join our citizens class action. See if you qualify against the Chi-Coms for destroying this country. Who else is doing it? Not our worthless Attorney General, Blowhard Bill. We're doing it. Who is it that brought the first antitrust case against the social media companies that's going to the Supreme Court? Yours truly and Freedom Watch and my client Laura Loomer. We are the ones that are out there in front, and we're not afraid. And let me tell you why I had this latest antitrust case by the Antitrust Division, my once proud alma mater. I was on the trial team that broke up AT&T. They haven't asked to break up Google, just minor corrections, because you see, they don't want to push too hard because everybody in Washington, D.C., including the Attorney General, is afraid of the power of the left. And they're afraid of the dirt that everybody has and everybody else. It's mutual assured destruction. Well, we, the American people, need to leave them behind. Leave them in Washington, D.C. Let them commit crimes against each other, which they will. Let's take the capital out of Washington. Let's put it in Philadelphia where it was in the first place, including our Supreme Court, not theirs, and establish a new government by and for the people, just as our founding fathers did in 1776, when they said in the Declaration of Independence, again written by Jefferson, that when the bonds of freedom are broken, there's an obligation to form a new government for the people. And that's what we need to start talking about and doing. And I give concrete ways we can do that. My book is not like the book of Sean Hannity or the book of maybe Tom Fitton. I haven't seen it yet, which is basically talking about all the horrors of the last 4 years and then saying, government, you fix it. Or you vote for Donald Trump in the case of Sean Hannity. That's not going to do it. Donald Trump is not the political messiah. I want him to win personally. I support him. I've been trying to help him for 4 years. But that's not going to stop the downward slide. And even if he wins, he's there only for 4 years. And he's probably not going to be able to do much of anything because of the Congress that will block him every step of the way. So we need to rise up. We, the American people, go out and buy my book and see how we're going to do it. It takes a revolution. Forget the scandal industry. Forget it. Let's get to work or we will have no country for ourselves and for our children and grandchildren. And we will be living in a slave economy and a slave body politic. You can see it already now with COVID-19. They've turned us into their slaves, the government. God bless you. God bless your family. God save your family. Thank you for listening to me. I'll be back tomorrow with another special podcast of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, and listen to my weekly radio show, also Special Prosecutor of Larry Klayman on radioamerica.com. You can find it at freedomwatchusa.org and spread it far and wide. The American people need to rise up. They need to be educated. We need to do it for ourselves and not depend on any politician or government leader. God bless you.
The Medicare annual election period deadline is almost here. I'm Meredith Vieira, here with examples of people who started their search for coverage at myhealthpolicy.com. Meet Larry. He likes doing things online, so he started
at myhealthpolicy.com. I took my time and found the coverage I was looking for. And done.
Next is Mary. When she wanted answers, she picked up the phone.
I wanted a local perspective on plans, so I called myhealthpolicy.com and done. Switched to a better plan.
And Michael.
I met with a local licensed insurance agent face-to-face and
done.
Go to myhealthpolicy.com to compare top-rated Medicare Advantage plans in your area, including $0 premium plans, or call 1-800-GO-START. That's 1-800-GO-START. Meredith Vieira is a paid endorser. KF Agency operates myhealthpolicy.com, not connected with or endorsed by the U.S. government or the federal Medicare program. A licensed insurance agent may call.